Good morning, Rutherford County. It's great to be with you again. And as you can see, I brought my wonderful wife, Margaret, here this morning. So,
Good morning.
yeah, good morning. And we were just talking about it this morning. We've been married now almost 46 years, and that's a miracle in itself, I think. It's great to see what the things that God has done. Um, just to recap, my name's Harry, and this is Margaret Feasy. We obviously don't come from this area, although we've been here for over 20 years now. But we originally came from Scotland. And really, this morning, we just wanted to share a little bit about what God has done in our lives. And although we don't use the word miracle very loosely, or just that's a miracle, but what we really wanted to say was that it's a supernatural intervention of God, that nothing in us could have done it. And these are some of the things we want to share. We can't talk about them all because there are so many that he's done for us, helped us, given us. And so I just wanted to share out of Luke 8 this morning, first thing. Luke 8, chapter 35 to 39. As you know, that's maybe the passage about the demoniac when people went across. And it says in verse 35, the people went out to see what had occurred, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were seized with alarm and fear. And as you know, from that point there, it really upset all the local people, and the demons were cast into the pigs. And it says, then all the people surrounding the district asked Jesus to depart from them, for they were possessed and suffering with dread and terror. So he entered a boat and returned to the west side sea of Galilee. But the man from whom the demons had gone out kept begging and praying that he might accompany him and be with him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, return to your home and recount the story of how many and great things God has done for you. And the man departed, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. And that's what we want to do this morning, just proclaim what God has done for us, what Jesus has done for us. And the great thing is that Jesus, although he departed from the demoniac, he didn't depart from us, because he's here with us now, even in our lives. And we can share really in our lives what he's done for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in Psalm 145, it says, great is the Lord and highly to be praised, and his greatness is so vast and deep as to be unsearchable. One generation shall laud your works to another and shall declare your mighty acts. And that's what we're here today, is to declare the mighty acts that God has done in our lives.
Yes, and it goes in Psalm 105, verse 1, and we could go through the whole Bible with these verses,
Yes, we could.
But it says, oh, give thanks to the Lord and call upon his name and make known his deeds among the people. Sing to him, sing praises to him, and tell of all his wondrous works. And, we'll just go through some of the things, and hopefully we have some time to share some of them. But just going back to the beginning where we were, when we came to the things of God and started to open up our hearts to what he was doing, we really had a very simple faith, really just like almost what I would call a childish faith, we had a we had a farm in Scotland, 60 acres. We just built a beautiful house.
Yes.
Majestic views, and lots of things were happening. I mean, one of the things I remember I don't know why I remember this, but we do, is that, in the evening sometimes we'd go and see who we could see or share with or pray with. And we used to have chickens, free-range chickens, and we'd go and get a dozen eggs and say, okay, then we need to go and give these to somebody and see if we can just come into their house and pray or do whatever, And we did that. And there was one particular time I remember we drove a little distance, because it was in Bucky, and we went to this lady's house and we started to pray. And the presence of God was so strong, I'd never felt anything like it, And it was just like, by faith, we just did whatever we thought God was telling us to do. And that is basically what we were doing. At the time we had the farm, as I said, I was working on oil rigs offshore, so I was away for good periods of time. And Margaret looked after, we had 4 children.
Yes.
Then another one came along later on. And, you know, she also looked after the farm. We had sheep. We could tell you many stories about the sheep, maybe
Yes.
another time. But, you know, the lambs come when I'm away on the oil rigs. And but this was Margaret. She was looking after them. She was looking after the house, looking after the children, running a prayer group. You know, very busy time. And we were really involved quite strongly then in a local church. And we had many friends.
Yes, we
and
did.
we were really established. We loved what we were doing. But during that, God really spoke to our heart. And he took us to a seminar. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, a seminar in Sweden.
Yes, and that was just after we had been through an extremely busy time. We just finished building our forever home.
Oh, yeah.
When we were getting the farm, I was learning to become a shepherdess. I was a full-time mother and had multitudes of things. And then God spoke to us and told us to go to this seminar in Sweden, which Harry mentioned, which in a way it was a turning point in our lives.
Yes, I mean, it really was. We went across there, and even we felt in our hearts that we wanted to go to a deliverance seminar that was actually part of the whole seminar, and we couldn't get in there. It was very regimented, and, you know, it was...
Yes.
And we had a friend over there, and he managed somehow, I think through the grace of God, to get us into that seminar. And that's really where we met Sam and Jane Wade, who's our pastors here in America. And we met them there, and it was just the start of a whole new beginning in a lot of ways, you know. We went, we went back to... after the seminar.
Yes.
And
it was in that seminar that
yeah.
God actually spoke to us.
Yes, to move.
That we were to move. And he spoke to us individually.
Yes.
And we thought our lives were settled, and God told us to go to Sweden, go to another country. So we did. We started packing up. We had visas to get, which only came a few days before we actually left. We were selling our house.
Yes,
we were
so
packing up
yeah.
our new house and everything. And but we decided we were going to obey God.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
And we were going to go to a country that was we couldn't work in because it was part of the European Union at that time, and Britain wasn't, and so we couldn't work there. So we had to really have faith for a whole year that's what we were going to
Yes.
be doing, and God was going to
Yes.
hold us in His right hand
Yes, He
throughout
was.
the whole year. You know,
We believed Him.
Yeah, we
Yes,
we did. We
did.
believed Him, and we set off on our journey. I remember we took the children, and we had the car so packed full of everything. The children were even sitting on luggage and stuff on the back seat, and we'd packed all the tire thing at the back with toothpaste, toothbrushes. Every
Yes.
single area of that car had something in it to get us through this period of time, we thought. So anyway,
Yes.
so we drove there through Norway, and we got there, and we had a friend, and we really didn't know where we were going to stay, where we were going to
We
live,
weren't
how it was all
clear.
going to work out, or anything like that. And we needed somewhere to stay, and we had a friend that met us, and his father was a banker, and he had some land, and he had an old house on this land, on the
Yes.
farm. And he just let us just stay there, that we could do it up and do up some of the property, and he would just let us stay there. So that
Yes.
was the first place, the first
Yes.
miracle that we really had, in that time. And as time went on, we wanted to get a house of our own, just nearer to where we were going every day. And we decided to buy a house. And in Sweden, these areas here, you buy it and you rent it. It's not the American way or the British way, but it's the Swedish way. And you buy and you rent. So we had money in the UK, so we tried to get it across, but it was not enough.
No.
To cover the whole thing. So the banker, father friend, said, well, I'll forward you some money to make up the difference of what you don't have.
Yes, that's right. And I remember sitting in the car with Harry one day saying, wouldn't it be wonderful if the exchange rate just rose to, which in my ignorance was actually quite an astronomical figure. But, you know, that was what was in my heart at the time, and that's what I shared.
Yeah,
Yes.
you did. And, you know, it was like we went down to the bank to see if the money had come through for 5 days, right?
Yes.
We went down there every day for 5 days. And when the money didn't come in, I can still say this is still a work in progress, but my patience wasn't what do you do while you're waiting? It was like, where is the bank? Where's the money? Where's the bank money? You know, and that's how, you know, it was
Yes.
at the time, you know. And then all of a sudden, the money came through.
Yes.
And the day that it came through was the day that there was really turmoil in the financial markets in Britain and Europe. And what happened was a thing called Black Monday or Black Wednesday or whatever it was. And the Britain withdrew from the European Union monetary system, and everything went wild. The interest rates for one day, under one day, went sky high. And when they came, our money came in through that loophole, and we had enough money.
And it came right straight back down after
Yeah,
it came through.
you know,
It was
and I was saying to Margaret,
miracle.
I mean, God can even orchestrate the whole of the European financial system to help us get a house, and it was a miracle of miracles. That
It
one,
was.
it was
It was.
it was incredible, you know. So
Unbelievable.
we bought that, you know, and then we moved into the house we had in Ulster. You remember?
Yes.
And it was
And
just
of course we had to furnish that house.
yes, the furniture came
And
from
the
everywhere.
furniture came supernaturally.
Yeah.
We had sofas, beds, bedrooms, closets. And I remember somebody brought and said, can we put this in your house? And it was a tall freezer. And I looked at it and I said, sure, you can put it there, you know. And he said, you can use it. And I thought, all right, this is a big thing to that freezer was full of food the whole time we were there. We had ribs and bread and meat and burgers and
People,
lamb.
we were the depository for a lot of the other people
And
at the
so
school, you know.
we lacked for nothing.
Nothing, absolutely. And
Yes.
people came to see us from all over, you know,
Yes.
and we put them up, and it was just it was just an amazing time, you know, with God, you know. And you remember the
Yes.
time, you know, somebody said, "Did you get the meat we put in the fridge?"
Yes.
You remember that?
Somebody had given us some food and they put it in a bag and it was pork chops, I think. And so we took some of these out and we cooked them that evening and we put the rest in the bag and put it back in the freezer. And she said to me, I said, we really enjoyed those, you know, and we had guests over and they really enjoyed it. She says, what did you do with the bag that came? I said, what we didn't eat, we put it back in the bag in the freezer. And she said, you might want to check it. And I did. And it had an envelope full of money. That was our frozen assets.
She called it our frozen assets. So there was another thing, you know, it was time and time, things like that were going on all the time. You know, we just loved to learn God in that way.
Yes.
You know, it was great, you know, and during those periods of time, you know, we met many people. There was ministers there, and there was one minister in particular who wanted us to go with her, you know, to different places. We went to Finland, we went to Kovala, we went to, you know,
Yes.
to Gothenburg. And there was one particular one that stands out. She wanted us to take her to Gothenburg to a seminar. And we were just the drivers, we were the Bible school students, you know, that's what we were. But she didn't mention anything, she just knew we had a car, so we would drive her. It was over 300 miles away, I think, yes. You know, and at that time, we're not in America, we're in Europe, and 300 miles is a long way. Plus the gas in Europe to get there and back is quite a lot. And we had about, I think, just say it was 300 krona, whatever it was that we needed. But we needed that to pay the rental part and now for getting through our next month. And I knew that if we went there, we wouldn't have this money. So I remember sitting at the end of a table. Margaret was up the other one. I said, Margaret, if we're believing and trusting in God, God's there for us.
Yes.
And our faith is that it's going to happen.
Yes.
It's going to work. So we took off. We drove her there, and as we went in there, somebody picked us, met us,
We
and
parked our car.
they took first of all they took the minister to this hotel.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, here we are. We're going to be camping in the car for a couple of days, with the children.
Yes.
And then the guy jumped back in the car again, and he drove us to this apartment block.
Yes.
And he opened up this door, and he said, "This is yours for all the time you." And it was beautiful.
Yes,
And then he
it
opened
was.
up the fridge, and it was like packed,
Full of food.
full of
yes.
food, and it was just such an amazing time. We just so enjoyed it. The
Yes.
seminar and the things that go on. Not even thinking about, well, I've still got rent to pay when we get back,
No.
and we spent it all on this gas, And so the seminar was good, and we went through the seminar, and then at the end of it, everyone was just saying thank you, goodbye, and everyone was just about at the doors to go out. And the pastor said, "Wait, stop." He says, "God's just spoken to me. We need to take up an offering for these
This
Bible school
family.
students, this
Yes.
family that's here, And we're thinking, and he took up an offering, and how much was it?
It was
Exactly.
it is exactly what we needed for our rent, our Bible school,
And
everything
what
for that month.
what it was, and it was just one of those little instances in life where you know that God is with you,
Yes.
and it was an incredible time, if time permitted. I mean, straight after that time we went to Israel,
Yes.
and
We did.
I don't, maybe that's for another day, because it would take so long to share about the miracles in Israel,
Yes, it would.
It really would. But we left Sweden, and we felt to go back to Aberdeen, and we went back to the church that we were from. And when we returned there, I became full-time in ministry, and we started the Bible school as dean of the Bible school, associate pastor, and it went on, and there was a lot of good things happened, but it just really didn't work out for us at that time. There was a lot of things going on.
Yes.
And, God then again laid it in our hearts to move,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
And, we had some options.
Yes, we could have
in our thinking, we had options. Yeah, God laid it on our hearts then to go back to, to actually uproot, not go back, to go back to the USA, to Spindale here, right where we are now. And again, it was a tremendous upheaval in a lot of things, but we knew that it was a center of
Yes.
what God wanted us to do.
And Harry, during that time when we were trying to hear where God wanted us to go, Harry said to me, what do you feel in your heart? I said, the only place I want to be is in the center of God's will. It's the only place of stability and peace.
Mm.
And actually, God gave me a scripture in Isaiah.
Yeah, you gave it to
He
both of us at
actually,
different times.
both of us at
Yeah.
different times.
Mm.
It says, "And there shall be stability in your times, an abundance of salvation, wisdom and knowledge,
Yeah.
and reverent fear and worship of the
Yeah.
Lord is your treasure and His."
Yeah. And you remember the story of the passports, of
Yes.
we got everything, we sold the house again, we've got the children waiting, they're out of school, and we're ready there, and then all of a sudden we realised we didn't have the visas, because the visas were sent down to the American
London.
embassy with our
Yes.
passports, so we couldn't go.
Yes.
And I had to go to somewhere else, to another ministry trip or something.
Yes.
And Margaret was ready to take the children across, but with no passports.
I was going with the children,
Yeah.
and we had no passports. And on the Friday, you had been sending fax and things,
Yeah.
and the only way you can pick it up is get your passport is to pick it up
Yeah.
or have it by post. We were flying first thing Monday morning,
Yeah.
and we had no passports, and so.
Yeah,
you
well,
had
you
text.
say I faxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that time it was faxed, but I
So
faxed every few minutes.
They called and on Friday and said they're ready to pick up. That was over 600 miles away.
Yeah.
And that's when Harry called for another pastor to come and pick up the passport.
Yeah, it was somebody we knew in London.
He was to meet me at London Airport, one of the busiest international airports. And so the children and I could go as far as London because we didn't have a passport to leave the country, and we met this pastor. which was an absolute miracle to be able to meet him to negotiate. I didn't have a cell phone, and so we had to arrange exactly where to meet. And he gave me the passport, and I took it, and we were able to board the plane to America.
You opened the passport and there was a 10-year visa inside.
10-year visa inside.
And it was a miracle we could spend a whole half an hour on that one
Exactly.
in itself. But after a period of time there, being in America, we had some incredible times, but we had to return because of we didn't have a green card, and we were applying for one, so we had to come back to Scotland, and we went, and some family put us up, but the whole family, basically the whole family on my side turned against us. We had nowhere to live. We had to go and find somewhere. And we met a man, and I can only call him like an angel in disguise.
Yes.
He said, I'll give you this house. I've got a room. And he gave us a room, just one room. And we had one child with us at that time. And it had a microwave in it. And I had no job, no anything. I could tell you about 3 or 4 miracles, but time is not going to permit every single one of these. But, it ended up that I got an incredible job working for the local government, just going around local schools in the Highlands of Scotland. It was a wonderful time in our lives.
Yes,
trusting God in everything. And, from there, we got to a place, and he gave us another room. And then he said, a house has come up. Would you like us to put your name forward for it? Because it had to go to some people in need. Basically, it's a special kind of house. And he said, yeah. And then we actually got the house.
Yes.
But it was completely and absolutely empty. There was nothing in it. No curtains, no floor covering, no anything. It was just beautifully just remodeled.
Yeah.
And he said, does your wife have everything you need? And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, pots, pans, sheets. I said, listen, we have nothing. He said, make out a list of everything you think you might need. So we sat down one night and we...
Yes, we wrote a list. Beds, drapes, bedding,
everything.
Sofas, stove, washing machine, dryers, tables, chairs.
Vacuum cleaners.
Yes.
Because we had nothing there.
Yes.
And then Grace, who was with us, said, can you put a piano on that list? And I said, we can't put a piano. We were asking him for this, for the little things, not the big things,
Yes.
But we did. We put a piano on the end there. And then a few days later...
Yes, this big van arrived at the house, this big truck. And they started unloading all this furniture, all the living room furniture, sofas, kitchen furniture, stove, fridge... washing machine, dryer, beds, carpets.
And what was the last thing that came off the truck?
And the last thing to come off the truck was the piano.
Piano. It was totally amazing, And, when you see that, and the house itself was absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
It was in the middle of the Scottish countryside. We could see out of our window Calder Castle, which is a beautiful castle.
It was actually on the grounds of part of
it was actually
Castle.
owned by Calder Castle.
Yes.
It had a duck pond at the back there, and the farm at the back of us.
Yes.
And this was near Inverness. It's the capital of northern Scotland.
Yes.
And we just had some incredible journeys in God at that time. So much so that when they said, "Oh, your green card's arrived," it really in your heart was, "Oh." This is God just done all this for us. We're going to go back and start all over again. And this is the story of our life, really. We just keep treading out to where we think there's nowhere to walk, and God puts His hand out and lets us walk across it. He does. And so we returned here.
And many new beginnings.
Yeah, it was. So we actually returned to here, the USA, Spindale, Rutherfordton, and we brought back one of the members of our family who was involved in this, my mum. And she came back with us, and she actually, all her time, God ministered into her heart.
Yes,
you know,
she did.
until she passed here.
Yes.
And she went back to Scotland, after she passed.
Loved her time
She
here.
loved it
She
here. She
nev-
loved it. She just wanted to be here.
She never wanted to go back to
No,
Scotland.
and it was
She loved
it
the
was
children. I
Mhm.
mean, the children loved her, and she loved the children.
Yeah.
She had so many friends here.
Oh, just everybody. She was just.
She was blessed in
She
her
was
final years.
she was a treasure to everyone, and God,
Yes.
it was just in our heart,
Yes.
and it was just something else, and there's many times like this that we're could share.
Yes.
We could. There's,
Many of them.
the times that Margaret's back was healed
Yes,
supernaturally.
I had a supernatural healing on my back. And the pastor had said, Margaret, God wants to heal your back. And I had some terrible pain in my back, and it just came from nowhere. And I thought, this is wrong. This doesn't feel right. And it had been x-rayed, and they kept x-raying the same part. And then they said, oh, you've had a terrible injury, or you were born with this defect. And I thought, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't feel like it's true. But one day I thought, well, God made my back. He can heal my back. And one day the pastor had said, God wants to heal your back. I didn't even know he was aware of my back problem. But he laid his hand on my back and prayed. And I could feel my back adjusting, and my back was totally healed. And 3 times that pain came back, and the minute that I prayed and cried out to God, it disappeared immediately, and it's been good ever since. And that was years ago.
Just like
over
the lady
20
in the
years.
Bible that
Yes.
was crippled over, and
Yes.
Jesus healed her.
Yes, he
healed you,
did.
yeah.
He healed her. Yes.
Yeah, and you remember that you had migraine as well. You
Yes.
used to get very bad migraines.
I had terrible migraines, and they started when I was soon after my father passed away. And one day our pastor here in Word of Faith, Jane Whaley, she had it in her heart to pray for people who had migraines, and she anointed with oil. And so I stepped forward, and she anointed me with oil and some others. And then at that time I had almost a terrible high migraine for one time, and I said, no, God healed me of that. And that was many years ago.
Yeah,
I have never had one
She never had one since,
ever again. Never.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
I mean, we had many miracles while we were in Sweden.
Yeah.
How God provided our money.
Yeah.
One time we were preparing to leave Sweden, and again we were running out of money, and I was cleaning out all the kitchen cabinets, and on the top of one of these tall cabinets I found an empty margarine tub, and I thought, where was that? I didn't even think it was mine. I shook it, and there was something in it, and there was like a note of like 500 or kroner or something like that, which is exactly what we needed at that time. And we had another miracle leaving because we, at that time, the property market started crashing.
It did, when we tried to sell the house to come out of Sweden.
We were getting ready
I
to put it
about
on,
that.
and nobody was being able to sell their houses. Well, we put our house on for the money that we paid for it.
Yeah.
And the first person that came along bought the
that. House, and
they said we were the only people in that area that ever got our house sold and for the asking price.
Well, there's many things we could share, but we really just wanted to share with you that, the way that God reveals himself, and especially in the valleys of our lives, when we think there's nothing there for us. And we've really enjoyed being with you this morning.
Yes.
And we'd love to come back and share some more of the stories,
Yes.
But you can watch these programs every Sunday morning, Sunday at 10:30. And we also record these on video, and you can go to www.wordoffaithfellowship.org and click on the radio button. And there's many, many programs there to encourage you and to strengthen you. And we love you all, and thank you for
Thank you.
listening. Yeah.
Thank you for listening.